I'm supposed to wear this? So Paul can, hold on, let me put my props down. Maybe. Do you know what a klutz I am? We won't discuss what a klutz I am. Hi, guys. Hi. Before I get into my topic, which is highly technical, okay, I want you to know this is very... I want to thank those of you who helped with the plant sale, and those of you who are going to help with the plant sales coming up. And if you don't like doing plant sales, we'll find something else, okay? We're really good at that, so just in case you get bored. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about greenhouses. And I got into gardening. I've done it a little bit most of my adult life. Well, that's not fair. I lived in an apartment until I was 40. And I bought my first house, and my mother thought I needed a flower bed. And then she thought I needed roses in the flower bed. And that's how I kind of got into it, and it grew from there. I have always wanted a greenhouse, but I didn't get one until I moved to Seguin. I've been in Seguin for 11 years. This coming 1st of April, that was April Fool's Day, I moved into my house. And I'm going, I sure do hope this is not a big mistake. But anyway, I immediately started doing landscaping and gardening and things like that, and I immediately started wanting a greenhouse. So I didn't know much about greenhouses, except that I had visited a few. So I took what is now called, used to be called specialist training, advanced training on greenhouses to learn a little bit. So I know a little bit about greenhouses. So feel free to ask me any questions, and if I don't know the answer, I will either make up something or we'll see if we can find out for you, okay? So, first question most people ask who like to dig in the dirt is, should I or shouldn't I have a greenhouse? And it's a question you really need to think about, because you don't want this empty building standing there that you spent a lot of time and money on. It's supposed to be productive. This is my favorite greenhouse in the entire world. How many of you have ever been to the greenhouse in London at Kew Gardens? Anybody? It is phenomenal. Of course, they have a staff of I don't know how many hundred people taking care of it too. But if you ever get a chance to go, you should go. They have a collection of plants from all over the world that they've collected for several hundred years, really. So it's a real opportunity to see it. But that's not what my greenhouse looks like. Okay.
My granddaughter lives there, so I'm just wondering.
Well, that doesn't even look like that.
What is the name of it now?
Now I'm going to show you a lot of pictures of different greenhouses.
She's wanting to ask a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's
What was your question?
No, I was wondering where that is in the...
Oh, the Kew Gardens. It's outside of London, England. So if you have a chance to go to England, I've been three times, and then you need to make occasion to go. It's a little outside of the city. It's not right in the city, but it's not far. And it is well worth the time. Now,
Is that yours?
Frank promised me this remote would work. Frank?
Is that yours?
Because the last time I was up here, mine looks like that. It doesn't have cactus in it, but it looks like that. I'm going to show you a bunch of pictures of different kinds of greenhouses so that you can get, there's a large range of stuff you can do. Okay, so questions to ask yourself. Put my glasses on so I might be able to see.
An answer?
Do I really want one? And if I do, how am I going to use it? Because there are a lot of things you can do with the greenhouse. And then the next question is, where am I going to put it? We're going to talk about all these things, so I'm not going to answer them right now. What type do I want? Am I going to build it myself or buy one, that is a kit, or having somebody come in and build one for me. I was talking to somebody before class, and since I am an absolute and total klutz, you know the put together furniture that back when, yeah, I always have a screw left over. And I'm going, okay, which part of this do I have to take back apart to put it together right? And I read the instructions twice before I started. So building it myself, that's not going to happen. And if I'm going to build or buy, what kind of materials do I want to use? And we'll talk about the type of materials that are available, what kind of working parts, what kind of furniture, benches and things like that do I want in there. And now that I have it, what the heck am I going to do with it? So, there are pros and cons, as there are with most things. You're going to be investing time and money in a greenhouse, both initially and ongoing. And so you need to be conscious of that and willing to make an informed decision. So pros are, it can extend your growing season. You know how many of us got ready to have the plant sales? Because you have to get the seeds started and all this good stuff, and the seeds were starting in January, and it was a little chilly and stuff in January. I wish I could say it was chilly and wet, but and so it extends your growing season. It protects those seeds and seedlings, whether they're from seeds or from cuttings. And since in a couple of weeks we're going to be talking about germination and propagation, and I happen to do the cutting section. I don't want to ignore that. It protects from harsh weather, from insects, and from birds. You know those little birds that I feed so religiously? They speak to me if I don't feed them. Does anybody else feed birds?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Do they harass you if you don't put the food out? Yes.
They want,
I mean, one morning I have a privacy fence along my back. I live in town, it's a privacy fence. One morning I went out, and there were birds lined up on the fence by the bird feeder, sitting there going, where are you, and why haven't you gotten out here? But they will also sometimes attack young growing things, and so that helps protect it from the birds. And you can save a fair amount of money on plants by buying seeds and taking cuttings and doing it yourself instead of going to the nursery. Although I have to say I help to support the local nurseries pretty well. Okay, the cons. You got to pay attention to the plants that are in the greenhouse because they need water. And of course, the plants outside need water, and we haven't had much rain, so that's probably not a lot different than regular plants. You need to monitor the heating. Right now, spring is an interesting season. It's the kind of season that you can wear clothing from every season in one day. I mean, you get up in the morning and you dress for winter, and then midday you kind of take the layers off and you're dressing for spring. By evening you're dressing for summer. So it's kind of the same way in a greenhouse, you know. So you have to pay attention to it. The heating, you start off, if you turn the heater on last night, which I did in my greenhouse, but I went out this morning before I came here and turned it off because it's going to get into the mid to upper 80s today. And they would all melt, and things can overheat. Okay, now I've decided, thought about this, really want a greenhouse, okay? How much money am I willing to spend? How large must it be, or how much money do I have to make it how large? You know, that. But I do remember when I took the greenhouse specialist training, One of the instructors, and I've never forgotten this because it was so true, one of the instructors got up there and she said, however big you think you want your greenhouse, make it bigger. Do you know what I do with my greenhouse, particularly in the winter time when I've shoved things in there to try and keep them to survive cold weather is, boy, I wish this thing were bigger. It needs to be bigger. So how big? How much growing, and part of that is dictated by how much growing space, but not just growing space in terms of seedlings and things. But if you use your greenhouse to overwinter, which a lot of us do, we have tropicals and we overwinter things in the greenhouse, then how much space do we need just to put things? And how automated, and we'll talk about different kinds of automation here in a little bit. Now, if you guys have questions, just ask. Now, sometimes I get wrapped up and you may have to jump up and down and yell at me to get my attention. That's okay. I'm not easily offended. I might cry, but I'm not easily offended. Okay, now then, how am I going to use it? I'm going to start plants from seeds. What are the major uses I make of mine? Or cuttings, propagation of any sort for that matter. Protect tropicals, another major use that I make of mine. Those are the two things that I primarily do with my greenhouse. Grow plants or crops out of season. Does anybody here grow tomatoes that are in pots in the wintertime? Okay, you can have, tomatoes are everybody's favorite fruit. I mean, that's, somebody said, I took tomato plants to the plant sale. Somebody said, how many tomato seeds did you grow? I said, 100 plus. Well, I mean, the packets have all these seeds in them. You can't just not plant it. You have to put, and then you've got the plants. Fortunately, we have the plant sales. Since I have a very small garden, and although I work at a couple of projects where I can take some plants, there is a limit. So we're selling most of the stuff. April's doing great with the online sales too. You can grow plants or crops not adaptable to the locale. So if you're like me and you like tropicals, there are periods of time where our climate here is wonderful for tropicals. Winter's not one of them. And so my greenhouse in the wintertime is full of ferns and hibiscus and things that do fine the rest of the year outside, but will not really thrive or even survive. Oh, by the way, this is just an offer. It won't be available until Earth Day. It's a big sale Earth Day. Downtown here in Seguin Park.
When is
That's the last Saturday in April, yes.
last Saturday in April?
Yes, 27th, 6th or 27th, I can't remember for sure. And I am going to have a bunch of desert roses. Do y'all know what a desert rose is? I'm going to have a bunch of desert roses. I started off a few years ago with 2 little desert roses plant. I bought it at Home Depot or someplace. And then they put some seeds out, so I planted some seeds, so I had some others, and I kept a couple and I shared with friends and neighbors. This year, the 2 mama plants decided we're going to have seed pods. Now, I don't know how many of you ever had a desert rose, but they are a warm weather plant. You have to overwinter them inside. They're really pretty. They're pretty carefree. They are potted plants because you have to move them. And the way they propagate, and I'm getting off topic here a little bit, but they put on seed pods that are about that long. And inside are these feathery seeds attached to this feathery thing. So when the seed pods open, they go flying all over the place. So you have to watch the seed pods. Anyway, lots and lots of seed pods, so I have lots and lots of baby desert roses that are going to the Earth Day sale.
Do they have to be taken care of like your tropicals and put into the greenhouse during the wintertime?
I'm sorry, my hearing.
Yes.
Do they have to be put in a greenhouse during the wintertime for protection?
Yeah. Okay. So, not adapted to locality. I knew I got off topic for a reason. And you can control the growth of plants some. Okay. Just different kinds of things growing. This is an orchid. This is not my orchids, by the way. This is a friend's orchids. It's beautiful, aren't they? Okay, greenhouse growing tomatoes, which you can do either in containers or hydroponically. Did any of you get a chance to go to Beth Smith's hydroponic gardening presentation? She did a lunch and learn a while ago. I'm sure, is she doing a presentation for the class?
She'll come in a few weeks, yeah.
Yeah. If you get a chance, it's not something I've gotten into, but a lot of people do, and they really like it because it gives you a lot of options, like growing tomatoes out of season. Here's somebody who just has stuff growing on the ground in the greenhouse.
It's a waste of space.
That's kind of my thing. This was interesting. Now, I haven't done this, but my sister did.
Are those gutters?
It is basically gutters that are connected by chains on the side, and then there are drip irrigation things that come down. Now, you can grow a lot of plants in a small space with something like this. The thing is with this, you have to have plants that have shallow root systems, because obviously you have about 4 inches of soil. But there are a lot of plants that don't take a lot of soil. Okay, now, where am I going to put it? I've decided I want one. I've decided I'm either going to build one or I'm going to buy a kit. I've made all those basic decisions. Where am I going to put it? Space is an issue, obviously. If you have land, excuse me, I'm going to grab my water here. I'm afraid that the spring is sprung thing in my sinuses are. You may not have as much of a decision to make on where to put it as some of us who live in town with landscaped yards and go, okay, where am I going to put it? I want it. Where am I going to put it? How much space do I need? Do you live in a neighborhood with deed restrictions on construction? Yeah. Or, in some cases, HOAs with restrictions on construction. Building permits are probably going to be needed depending on where you live. You're going to have to check. Utilities. Now, you need certain utilities. There are 2 things for sure that you need. You need water. Okay, now it doesn't have to be in the greenhouse necessarily, but you need water close enough to the greenhouse to be able to pull. What I do is I have an expando hose that I pull in and water, and that way I'm not taking up space with hose in the greenhouse. But you need water. You need electricity. Now, and battery operated won't cut it. You're going to want lighting in there. And you're going to want heating. Now, the heating can be, and we'll talk about heating systems later, something besides electrical, but you will need electricity. And then you have to consider your neighbors. They may be perfectly happy, particularly if you share plants with them. But having lights on in the middle of the night. Now, you can turn the lights off at night, but I forget sometimes. And, or you can put them on a timer. And then I had this person I was talking to one time who, she didn't have a greenhouse, but she was growing things with grow lights in her garage. And she had the garage door open one time with the grow lights on and all this good stuff. And a police car drove by. Guess what the police car did?
Stopped, came back.
And he drove back by and he pulled up at the curb and she went out. She happened to be in the, she went out and she said, "You can come in and look if you want. I'm not growing weed." Now, you know how I feel about weed. I like weeds. Oh. I was having a, now some of you are too young to get this, but I was having a conversation the other day with somebody about weeds and stuff, and I said, you know, I was kind of like Bill Clinton, of the generation where I didn't inhale. I just, but I make no commitments about the brownies that I ate. So you do have to think about your neighbors. Okay, what types? So let's talk different kinds. There are a wide range of types of greenhouses. This is a basic Quonset hut. Basically what this is, a frame, and it doesn't even have a permanent covering on it. It just has heavy mill plastic, okay?
It doesn't work in Texas.
Yeah, well, it will work for a season or two, but you have two problems. One is the wind,
Yeah.
and the other is the sun.
Yeah.
Over time, that plastic will really deteriorate. Now, if you're just doing it for, okay, I don't want it for very long, I just want it for a couple growing seasons, you could probably get away with it. But you're right, it wouldn't. This is what's called gabled. Mine looks very much like this. Got a slanted roof, doors, and I'll talk building materials here in just a second. I've got some examples. This is, this is neat looking. Yeah. It's a Gothic arch. I wasn't going to spend that kind of money.
What's that called?
I can hear my mother in my head sometimes. Any of you ever hear your mothers and fathers in your head? I can hear mine going, "It's a little waste of money, isn't it?" It'll work just as well with something else, less expensive. This one I have never actually seen. This is a geodesic globe.
Don't.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't have
I'm
much.
not sure how you would practically put plants and benches and stuff in there. Cool looking, but practicality, not sure about that. An A-frame? Now, a lean-to, somebody spent some money on this. A lean-to is basically any greenhouse or building, for that matter, where you have a permanent structure and you build something on it, with one wall of the permanent structure providing a wall for the greenhouse. And then you build 3 walls and a roof over the greenhouse. Now, the advantage, if you can do it, is it's a nice stable building to build up against. The disadvantage is in terms of light, because you only have 3 sides that light is coming into the greenhouse. A lot of lean-tos don't look quite that fancy. Okay. This is another one that's even fancier. Okay. And then some things that aren't quite greenhouses but can be used to grow things that are handy. Cold frames. screen houses, lath houses, and shade houses. This is not a cold frame exactly. I'll do cold frames in a second, but this is just a window. I lived in a house one time that had a bay window, and I used it similar to this. Okay, this is a cold frame. Here, anybody here ever done cold frames? They work out well for you?
I use them.
Cold frames are usually built into the ground. You basically dig a hole, and you build a cover to go over the hole that provides protection, and you open and close the cover. Okay? Then you put pots and stuff in the cold frame. They can be pretty simple, or they can be very elaborate. Okay, this is a shade house. This is a frame again with a cloth shade cover over it that you can take off and let the sun in, so you can provide shade when it's really hot and take it off in the spring and fall and have plants in there if you want. The advantage of a shade house is exactly what it sounds like. It provides shade in the heat of the summer. It can also provide protection from insects. And this is a shade house with the cover taken off. I'm trying to stay out of your way when I'm wondering. I could stand at the podium and talk, but that's not really my style, so. Okay. This is a lathe house, and basically all it does is provide some shade. Okay, and a screen house, which is basically a freestanding screened-in patio that you grow things in. It provides some shade. You could put shade cloth over the top if you wanted. And it provides protection from insects. Now, Texas grows things big, as I have been informed ever since I moved to Texas 11 years ago. Bigger, better, and everything, and that includes the mosquitoes. So this can be an advantage. Although I had a friend of mine who's from Alaska,
Yes.
and he swears the mosquitoes there are much bigger than they are in Texas.
They are.
And
They are?
the bug spray,
That doesn't even phase them?
it's like you're feeding them.
They like the bug spray, do they? Okay, remind me not to move to Alaska. Now, I have been to Alaska. In fact, I'm going back again this August. And in the summer, it's beautiful. But you're right, the bugs are, I'm pretty sure I couldn't deal with the winter.
She said mosquitoes are the state bird of Alaska.
Really? Yes. Well, I understand that all the bugs in Alaska are grow fat. They have a very short growing season. So we make up for it by let's do this and do it right and grow really fast and really big. Okay. This is just because I really would like to have this. This is an atrium.
At the lottery, you can buy it.
I love it. Of course, I'm the kind of person, I bought a house I moved a fair amount in my life, but I bought a house one time, and after I bought it, the realtor she told me, she said, you're the only person I've ever known who bought a house because of the back porch. It had a 30 by 15 screened-in back porch. I just love that back porch. Okay. Now, other things to consider. You're going to have big. You're going to have medium. You're going to have small. Now, part of that's going to be dictated by your pocketbook, but part of it's going to be dictated by your property. Now, mine is an 8 by 12 because that's what I had space for. You know. Orientation, we'll talk about all this, shade, this sort of stuff. You want to build it so it's expandable. So, okay, this is this big now, but if I want it, I can make it bigger. And we probably won't talk much about commercial greenhouses. It depends on who I'm doing a presentation for. Okay, so size. Depends on what you're going to grow, how you're going to use it, basically. Excuse me, I'm sorry. How much you're willing to spend, your utility bills, if you have access to natural gas or not. Now, you can use gas, well, gas of any sort. I told you you need the electricity for the lighting, if nothing else. But if you have access to gas, gas can be a less expensive option for heating than electricity. So you can use natural gas, you can brew propane, or you can use electricity. Now, I live in an all-electric neighborhood, so gas was not an option for me unless I use a propane tank, a portable propane tank, which I could have done. Okay, then you want to consider light. We can talk about all this. What kind of heating and cooling system, if any. Water we've talked about. Salinity. Anybody live someplace where salinity is an issue with their water? I live here in Seguin, and it's not. The issue we have with water is calcium. We have very hard water. But there are places where this is an issue. If anybody's ever been to Salinas, Kansas, you know why they call it Salinas?
It's salt water.
Because there are a couple places that I used to travel for on business that I made sure I had bottled water. Normally I'm fine with drinking tap water, you know. But there are a couple places where I'm going, okay, we're going to have bottled water because I can't drink the stuff that comes out of this tap because of salinity. What kind of growing media you're going to use? Carbon dioxide is not going to be a major issue for most of us if you keep the place properly ventilated. Fertility, wind, humidity. We don't have humidity here, do we? No. And we don't have insects either. No. And disease control. And I understand that your presentation after I am done, assuming you can ever get me to shut up, is going to be on diseases. You're going to have Kim Cochran here talking about plant diseases. She is great. Have you guys done pests yet? No?
Yeah.
All right, that one's going to be good too. Okay. Build or buy. If you build, there are lots of options. Obviously, you can go buy all new materials and that sort of stuff, or you can use recycled. Or you can build it from a kit. It's called the Wimpy style, like I did. Okay, using recycled and purchased materials is one way. Kit is another way. Now, I've seen some really neat greenhouses that are made with recycled materials. I saw one that basically they had taken used windows and made the walls out of the windows. And the advantage of that was the windows open and close. And you put a screen on them, and you have a natural ventilation system. Okay, so construction. If you're going to use wood, which I don't recommend, but if you are, make sure that you use a wood that is water resistant. Because that humidity that we were all laughing about just a minute ago that we don't have, guess what it does to wood? So you need redwood, assuming you could find it these days. Cypress or cedar or treated recycled lumber, something that is going to be resistant to damage from humidity. You can use galvanized steel, again with recycled PVC pipe or aluminum. Any of those will work. Just depends on what you can get easily. Like this is an aluminum frame. That's what mine happens to be, is aluminum frame. They're pretty resistant to rust. They last for a long time. They are lightweight, so if it's in an open area with high winds, you need, which we've been having a few of lately, you need to make sure it's well anchored because they will shift if you. This is a joint on a wood. Treat the joints with tar or something that will help resist the humidity. Or you can use galvanized steel joints. This is steel. Mine doesn't look like that, by the way. Okay, foundation. If you're going to go full bore, you can have a concrete pad poured. Now, two things going to do that. Make sure it is level land, okay? And make darn sure you have got appropriate drainage. The humidity issue again. You're going to have water in the greenhouse. I mean, that's what you're going to do, is have water in the greenhouse. And you need to make sure that water's not standing, because what's going to happen if you have standing water in our weather conditions? Well, you're going to have mold, that's one thing. You're going to have insects. Where do mosquitoes breed?
Standing water.
Right. So that's one thing. You can use gravel. You can use sand and fabric. That is, put a fabric cover down and then put sand on top of it. Or you could do it the other way around, for that matter. Put sand down and put fabric on top of it. Except the fabric will deteriorate over time, so that's an issue. Or you use boardwalk. There's a lot. I'll show you some options here. Okay, this is one. This has got a concrete with a drain in it. This has just got fabric. I like this one. They put pavers down, and then they have gravel or pebble rock, which either is fine, on either side, so the drainage goes there. And you'll notice on the pavers, so that provides a nice steady walking space in there. But you'll notice on the pavers, there is no sealer between the pavers. You need to make sure it's open so the water can get through. This is a gravel. Now mine looks very similar to this, except mine's, well, it's pea gravel, the larger gravel.
That looks like wood.
Did you pack that down after you put it in? Did you? Okay.
Okay, covering. Get my props. What else do I have in here that I've forgotten about? This is something. I'm back. Props. Now, you could do glass. Glass is most attractive, but it's also the hardest to keep clean. It's also the most fragile, and it's also the most expensive. So typically, most of us hobbyists don't do glass. But if you're going to do glass, look for recycled. It's going to be a lot less expensive for you. Like the windows, for example. That's a good option using glass. Polyurethane film, or where's the chippy? There are a number of polycarbs and fiberglasses that you can use. This is a thin sheet of fiberglass. Not my recommended because there's no insulation here to speak of, but it can work. These are polycarbs. I have several different. There's clear. Now, polycarbs are going to have an insulation. There's a cell here. So you've got 2 layers of plastic with an airspace. This provides insulation from the weather. You can get, now the kit's not going to come with it, but you can special order where you've got 2 layers of air fiber. So you'd have 3 layers of polycarbs with 2 air pockets in between. That provides better insulation, but it's also going to be considerably more expensive. You can get clear, slightly shaded, or really shaded. Now, if you have things out, mine's clear, because I want the sun coming in when I'm growing the seedlings in the wintertime. But wherever you're using it, whatever is going to be appropriate for your weather conditions and wherever you're using it. Another option is this corrugated. Now, I don't recommend this for the walls, but this can be an option for the roof because the water will drain down it. Again, clear or shaded depending on what you want to do in your greenhouse. Don't let me walk off and leave these, okay? It's your responsibility. Or you can use plain plastic sheeting, but as we talked about earlier with the plastic sheeting, not going to last well, and you're going to be doing repairs and mending a lot. So this is a polycarb.
Where do you buy that?
Well, kits will come with it, or you can buy or order it from places like Lowe's and Home Depot, or any building supply.
Yeah, Home Depot doesn't carry it.
It doesn't? They
on
use
the thing, but you can get it online.
Yeah,
That's the only way you can get it.
yeah. So,
And it comes in at, I would assume, like a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You'll need to have the tools to cut it to whatever size that you want. Now, if you buy a kit, what it's going to come, the kit's going to come with the frame built appropriate for the sizing of the panels. Yes.
I was going to say, there's also that Farm Tech or the Gross Fan Greenhouse company.
Yeah,
And then we
I
have
think
a
so.
place called P Plastics out of Dallas that it's cheaper the more you buy. It goes down a little bit. So it's good to know.
Good information. This is the plastic sheeting thing. Again, it's not going to be very permanent. This is a lean-to with some polycarb on it. Most of the kits that you buy will have some version of polycarbonate. That's almost all of them. Now, there are professional greenhouse companies. There's one in San Antonio. I've never used it, but I have friends who have. If you want to invest that kind of money, where they will come and whatever building materials you want to use, they'll build it for you. It'll be professional construction people putting it together, and they'll put in water into the greenhouse, electricity, where I had to pay a separate electrician to come in and do it. It just depends on what you want, how you're going to use it, and how much money you're willing to spend. What I want and how much money I'm willing to spend don't always match, you know. Again, the plastic sheeting thing. Okay, design. Part of the design is going to be dictated by what you're going to grow. And part of it, the other things you have to think about is what kind of materials and stuff do you want in there in terms of benches? What kind of land do you have? What kind of head house, we'll talk potting areas, we'll talk about that. Storage and the issue of weather and winds where you live. And the difference between, how many of you live out with some land? Anybody? A lot of you. The difference between living in town and living out of town in terms of weather is pretty significant sometimes. This is a benching system. And we're going to look at different kinds of benches, but this is one that uses, oh, I just went out of my head, the kind of heavy-duty wire. Yeah, guys help me. Yeah, thank you. It's another shot of the. This one didn't bother with benches. That makes my back hurt looking at it. Oh.
That looks like a green gate.
Okay, other things to think about when you're building. Is your land flat or do you have a slope? How much leveling are you going to have to do? You'd kind of like it as flat as possible. It's not always possible to get it perfectly level, but you would. If you're going to be hauling things in, how close are you to a street or roadway? Utilities, we've talked a little bit about that. We'll talk about some more. I just put this in because I thought it was a neat shot. I wish mine looked like that. Nice greenhouse with a, never mind. Okay, so location. And it's going to be dictated some by what you've got available, okay? But do you want full sun, part shade, and that's going to be dictated by when you're going to be growing things. In the winter, in the spring, and the summer. Although, you know, somebody told me shortly after I moved to Texas, they said, Texas has got 3 growing seasons. Summer is not one of them. Yeah. Or do you want shade in the summer and sun in the winter? Which is basically how I've tried to get mine.
Okay, do you put your shade screens out in June? Or do you put them out beforehand?
I'm sorry, what?
Your shade screens, you know, to keep the...
No.
No?
My greenhouse, and I'm going to talk about location here in just a second, my greenhouse is in the absolute worst location you could possibly do. It's on the north side of the house. It's under a 40-year-old crepe myrtle tree. Now, the good news about that is, in the winter time, when I'm using the greenhouse, the primary time I use the greenhouse is the you know, from fall to spring, about now. Mine's pretty empty right now. Things have been moved out. The crepe myrtle loses its leaves, so the sun comes in. Ideally, I would not have put it on the north side of the house, but that's where I had room, and it wasn't taking my rose beds out, so I could put it on the east or south side of the house. So, and the way my backyard is, the west side is the house. So, south or southeast is best, not north. But you do what you got to do sometimes, and it's worked out pretty well for me. All-day sunlight is best, so that you're getting natural light in. You're going to have to use some artificial lights, particularly if you're doing seedlings, but as much natural sunlight as you can get, which is why I don't do shade cloth, is I want the sun in there when I'm growing things. If you're going to have shade, you want it in the late afternoon and evening when it's hottest, not in the morning. And you want to try and maximize winter sun exposure. Since that's the biggest time we use greenhouses around here, that's when you want sun on it. How many of you have ever done a sun inventory where you live? Anybody? Good. Basically that is, you know, you kind of know, well, you know, my front of my house faces north and actually mine faces west. So if you want to get something burned up, you plant it in the front. But you don't just go, okay, I know which direction is what relative to things, but where's the sun at various times of the day and at various times of the year. We just did what this last weekend? We just, lost or gained an hour depending on how you want to look at it. Actually, we didn't lose or gain anything, we just changed the clocks. But the days are getting longer, okay? And at different times of the year, the sun is doing different things. So it's not just different times of the day, it's different times of the year, and when will I be using the greenhouse? So that's what a sun inventory is, and it lets you, not just with greenhouses, but with planting. When you're planting a permanent plant, you need to know what it needs and what your house structures or other structures are providing, or trees, or whatever it might be. Okay.
That's a beaut.
As we said, can be
That's a barn.
site limiting. Mine, that's a small little greenhouse. Okay. Cooling. There are a lot of different kinds of cooling systems. Depending again on how much money, how you use it, how much money you're willing to spend. And one is an evaporative cooler. There are roof vents, wet walls, air conditioners, exhaust fans, fan tubes, and fan and pads. We'll talk about all of them. Most of us are not going to be investing in, I will tell you that, as hobbyists. Okay. One thing you definitely need is you need roof vents. And all kits come with roof vents. If you pay somebody to come in and build it, they're going to put roof vents in. You can or cannot have a pulley system. That's nice. That's an advantage because you don't have to get on a step ladder and push the vents up and down and fasten them. But you have to have a roof vent. Why? What does heat do? Yeah. And it's just going to sit up there and bake everything. So you need a roof vent. Multiples. They usually come at least two, depending on the size of the greenhouse. One on either side. The bigger the greenhouse, the more roof vents there will be. An evaporative cooler, sometimes known as a swamp cooler, is an option. Now, I've been tempted to try it, but I've talked to people who have used it, and they've been less, it cools all right, but it also puts moisture in the air, and therefore mold and things like that tend to grow.
Will go moldy. your
So that's been your
gutters will
experience, don't?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't ever
Books.
pursued it.
It's better to stick it in the window of your house than that, right?
That's
Yeah.
last thing you want. In a house.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed like a really good idea, but I think that if I bought it, it would have been, it was a good idea at the time that I bought it, because they're relatively inexpensive and they're portable and all that good stuff. But you might want to just think
For a
about it.
greenhouse, it'd be great.
Yeah, a fan and pad system is basically, you've got this pad of material with water running down it and a fan behind it blowing through and blowing cool air. Now, this takes a pretty, yeah, it blows cool air into the greenhouse. And this takes a pretty big operation to justify that kind of okay, swamp cooler, another version of the evaporative cooler. A vent fan. Now, let me talk about vent. This is besides the roof vents, the other thing you need is a vent fan. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. They're not difficult to install. Now, I have to admit, I did not install mine. I got my brother-in-law. When I moved to Texas, I moved here, I didn't know anybody except my sister and brother-in-law. So I moved 3 blocks away from them so that my brother-in-law can come over and do stuff. I start my conversations off with him as, oh, favorite brother-in-law? He's my only brother-in-law too, but anyway, he came over and installed it. You can buy a little, depending on the size of your greenhouse. I mean, if you have a big greenhouse, you're going to need a bigger fan. For a smaller greenhouse, you can buy a little bathroom vent fan. It's not a big deal. You put it on the back wall of your greenhouse. Ideally, you have it set on a thermostat because you want it to come on when the heat gets up in the greenhouse automatically. You don't want to have to go out there and turn it on.
Okay,
You can buy a solar fan on Amazon for $31.
Uh-huh.
those look, I lived in Rockport, and that's how we cooled our house with
Uh-huh.
a vent fan. Just a,
Oh, yeah.
a fan about this big, mounted on the wall. We'd open all the windows in the house about an inch, and
And it
this is
pulls,
Rockport.
yeah, that vent fan pulls that hot air out of there.
Real good.
I grew up in an older house. When I say older, it was built in 1905. And it had an attic fan. Didn't have air conditioning. It had an attic fan. And that cooled a 2-story house. Of course, this was not here. This was in Southern California, but so anyway, this is a refrigeration. This is a fancy air conditioning unit. Now, if any of you build a greenhouse that justifies this kind of a unit, I want to come visit. Let me know just as soon as it's done, okay?
Mac will take care of you.
This is another vent fan. This happens to be a little bigger than mine is. Mine's not very big, but then my greenhouse isn't very big. But if you have a bigger greenhouse, you want a bigger fan. Now, before I move on to this, in addition to those, one of the other things that I recommend is that you have a fan in the greenhouse to move the air around. Now, it can be a fan on a stand. Mine's a little table,
oscillating.
but yeah,
Okay.
fan. And it basically, what it keeps is keeps the air moving, and it reduces the chance of disease on your plants. It's not really a cooling system, although it helps with that. But it's because that you have an enclosed space, and in humidity, things are going to just sit there. This keeps the air moving some. It's just sitting on a shelf right inside the door, blows across the greenhouse. Circulating fan. Okay, heating systems. Keeping an eye on my time here. Of course, April's not jumping up and down, but April's not here, so. Okay, so as we talked earlier, several options for heating system. You will need heat. We don't have horrible winters here usually, although there was one year that we made exception to that. That's just for a week, but it was pretty much the week from hell. But natural gas, propane, wood, or other combustible, solar, and electric. Now, I may say a word before we move on to some of these about wood. It is an option. You can do it if you want a wood-burning stove in your greenhouse. I do not recommend it for several reasons. Primary one, safety. You know, yes, something could happen with the others, but the chances are less than they are with wood. The other is, I've never used one, but it's got to be a pain in the you-know-what to be go out there stoking that stove all the time. So if you have natural gas, you can hook up to your natural gas system. You can, and then I'll show you a picture here in just a second, have little propane heaters, portable propane, or hook into, if you have propane tanks on your property, hook into your propane.
What about an old kerosene heater?
I've never used or talked to anybody doing kerosene. I would think there'd be safety issues with that as well. Solar panels are an option, and electric, which is the simplest one for most of us. Yes, sir.
There's a passive option that you can use too, and that's by using rocks and concrete blocks, water jugs painted black. They absorb the heat and give it off during the winter, during the night with the mild winters we have here. I've done that, and it works. It wasn't in a greenhouse, it's just a little potting shed.
Well, but still,
But it worked.
the idea is the
I
same.
kept stuff
Yeah.
all winter long.
Just a matter if you, yeah,
As well, you can get like more.
okay.
Yeah, some give off some heat, but I like the smell of rocks better. Not that there's anything wrong with manure, I don't want that to be.
All righty, so let's talk a little bit about this.
Is that yours?
Now, this is the picture I showed you earlier, and we were talking about the flooring. Now I want to talk about the heating.
Propane.
This is a propane heater. Easy to install and maintain. And again, you can probably put that one on a thermostat and come on and off as needed. This is an electric heater and exhaust fan together. Some of these are way more elaborate than most of us are going to indulge in. But I wanted to show you the options. Okay, let's see here. Oh, sorry. Okay, shading. Now, whether you think you need additional shading or not is going to be up to you. But there are some things you can do. It depends on how much you want what you're going to grow. So, you can get shade cloth. And this one happens to have an automatic pulley system where it installs it. Somebody's not standing out there throwing that shade cloth over that greenhouse. Okay? But you can get shade cloth that you can take on and off, depending on how hot it is and what you've got in the greenhouse and how much shade you think you need. This is kind of a lathe house thing that has shade cloth over the lathes. Now, one of the things that was mentioned in there was paint, which I kind of skipped over because I highly do not recommend it here in this climate. What's going to happen to paint in our climate? On a roof of a greenhouse, out in the sun.
Don't say how long.
Do I see peeling paint in my future? This is on a plastic covering probably. You know, so it's not absorbing the paint, it's just sitting there. Okay, air circulation. And that's where my little fan, I kind of got ahead of myself, my little I use for it. It's important. So, shelving, benches, workspace, plant space. Again, you can be as elaborate or as simple as you want on this. So we're going to talk about accessories. I still have a few minutes. Okay, benches, lots of options. You can do wood, you can do hardware cloth, you can do welded wire, you can do fixed, you can do rolling. Mine are very elaborate. I found these shelves at Costco that they kind of put together so you can put however many of them together that you want. They have holes in them. Why are the holes in them important? Anybody? Water. You're going to be watering those plants? It's nice if the water doesn't sit on the shelves. So it just goes through them. So, these are nice wood ones, but it has a hard surface here. Now it has a water surface down here, but it has a hard surface here. That's an issue because, again, the water's sitting on the shelves.
But wouldn't it be a good work area?
That's probably what it was.
I'm sorry, hon, what?
Would it be a good work area, that hard space to work? Mm-hmm. And then,
You could.
That's probably what
Okay.
it was. That's probably what it was.
These are wood and wire again. That's really a nice option because but if you're using wood, again, I want to caution you to use treated wood, that the water will mitigate, at least mitigate damage that the humidity and the water are going to cause to the wood, because they will. I said, move. Okay. So, we've talked about most of that. You can, if you have space, I don't. Mine are against the wall and around the back and stuff. But if you have space, you can do the peninsula thing. I like that idea if mine was wider, because you can work both sides. Or rolling. Now, if you're going to have rolling benches, you're going to need that concrete floor, because I can just see you trying to roll a bench on gravel. That's going to work really well. If you're going to do it, let me know. I'm coming with the camera. Okay? But one of the things you do need to think about when you're planning your greenhouse is, how do I want to arrange the furniture in it? See, this is my dream greenhouse. And it's got all the little fans up there to circulate. And nice. Again, straight wood, treated wood, with holes where the water doesn't sit on the wood. Concrete block and wire. Inexpensive, easy. And we're back to our, okay. This remote and I.
You gotta break that remote.
Lighting, you will need supplemental lighting. Now, you can buy, and most people do, greenhouse lights. There's special lights you can raise and lower on, usually on chains, to get them close to seeds when they're starting and move them up as the plants grow and that sort of stuff. You want to make sure the light bulbs in there are grow lights, the special UV provisions. Or you can be cheap like me. I've got, I probably shouldn't even say this, everybody's going to go, she just lost all credibility with me. You know the utility lights with the aluminum hoods?
yes.
Uh-huh. With clamps? That clamp on the sides, the supports on the greenhouse, one on either side, raise and lower on the supports. Worked well for, I've had that greenhouse for 8 years now. It worked pretty well.
What bulbs? do you
So
use?
creativity, sometimes just think about what will work.
You have some kind of grow light bulb in there, or 100 watt, or what?
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of bulbs do you have in there?
I have grow light bulbs. Now, I had to go online. I mean, if you go down to H-E-B or Home Depot, they're not going to have grow light bulbs, but they're just light bulbs, but they are grow light bulbs.
Can I throw something out real quick? I'm waiting on an order from American Science and Surplus. It's a 12-foot long string of grow lights. They're cheap.
Yeah.
American Science and Surplus.
Yeah, you
12-foot long, big old grow lights.
put a fluorescent holder in with the long grow lights. That's ideal. That's the ideal thing because you have nice even. Mine's not ideal. Mine was, I want something right now, and I didn't want to fuss with it, and I just never changed it. Okay, other things to be thinking about. You will need electricity. And you do not want to run a heavy-duty extension cord, okay? For several reasons, safety being the primary one. So that means you're going to have to, unless you're a licensed electrician yourself, you're going to have to invest in having an electrician come in and put electricity to your greenhouse. Now, how cheap or expensive that's going to be is going to depend entirely on how far your greenhouse is from the source of electricity. I'm fortunate, mine's about 15 feet. But it's something you will need. Hose bibs, not necessarily in the greenhouse, but close. You need a water source close enough that you can get a hose into the greenhouse. You're not doing commercial, so you don't need carts and cart access. Storage doesn't have to be in the greenhouse, but if you have space, it's nice if you have a storage area in the greenhouse. Mine is on my potting bench. I have an external potting bench. I have a shed that I had a potting bench built onto that's got shelving and cabinets and stuff on it. That's where my pot storage is, and my potting mix storage and all that good stuff. Chemicals and fertilizer, same deal. If you want to, you can get into water recycling and rainwater harvesting and that sort of stuff. It's a good thing to do if you have a building that's suitable for it. This happens to be an outdoor potting area. Let me go back. This is a nice one with water and everything. Let me go back. I missed one here. This is more what mine looks like.
Kind of dirty, huh?
Yeah. And this is a building that has rain barrels attached to it. Okay, maintenance. Now I'm going to really hit you on this one. This is important. If you want your greenhouse to last, it's important that you do good maintenance on it. Clean up after you spill something. If you pull dead leaves off or have infected plants, I think, is Kim here yet? Hi Kim. If you have disease-infected plants, take them out of the greenhouse. Clean up. Maintain a clean work environment. Cleanliness may not be next to godliness, but comes really, really close when it comes to having healthy plants. Check regularly for pests and diseases. And make sure you use clean tools. Now, here's the one that a lot of people don't pay good attention to, and that's annual, or in some cases, depending on how you're using it, semi-annual clean. Take everything out of the greenhouse, and you will spray the walls of the greenhouse using a pump sprayer or my handy-dandy little electric sprayer with a Clorox water solution, 10% Clorox solution. ceiling, walls, roof, and then immediately hose it off because it will deteriorate the plastic. I do the interior and the exterior, but definitely the interior. Why would I want to,
Kill off any bugs or disease.
yeah, insects, diseases, molds, you want it clean when you start your next growing season. I do this in the spring. Usually I'm through using the greenhouse by May. It starts getting hot. I've got everything that tropical pulled out. I've got all my seedlings are big enough to be doing whatever seedlings need, whether they're flowers or veggies or whatever. And so sometime in May or early June, I do this. I do a modified version of it usually in the fall before I start pulling stuff back in. Because stuff, even though you cleaned it, stuff will accumulate, like spider webs, for example. They love greenhouses. They will accumulate over the summer. So, clean everything. The benches, everything. Okay, now, I hope I've answered your question of should I or shouldn't I? And you don't even have to be a tragic figure like Hamlet. Any questions? Listen,
Do you do anything with it in the summer?
I'm sorry, my hearing.
Do you do anything with it in the summertime?
Not really, I don't. I know some people who do, but I don't. Mine basically sits empty in the summer.
Okay.
Most of the things that I like to do that require a greenhouse are going to be spring, fall, and winter things. Yes, ma'am.
What other options besides Clorox do you put on there?
What other options for what?
What are the options besides Clorox can you put in there?
Well, any strong cleaning, if you don't want to use Clorox, you could use Lysol or something like that. But you need a cleaning solution that is going to kill disease. Okay? That's the purpose of doing it. Is despite all the care you may take when you've got things in the greenhouse, you're going to have mold growing on the supports because you have so much moisture in there. And you want to get all that out of there so it doesn't just sit there and accumulate over the summer in our heat and humidity. So it's important. You want healthy plants, then you have to take care of your growing environment. I'm sorry about the hearing thing, guys. I have a condition called Meniere's. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. And although I wear hearing aids in certain environments, I still have a problem. Yasa.
If you do go and buy a pre-built one or one that will be built in your backyard, and if it's okay with all your HOAs and everything else like that, and I don't know if you mentioned it because we were out having a meeting, but I would suggest that if you make that kind of an investment, then you find out if it's going to be covered under your homeowner's policy in case of major storms or anything of that nature.
That's a good point. Okay, other questions? Guys, it's been a pleasure. For those of you who don't have greenhouses, think about it. I hope I've helped answer some questions. For those of you who do, I suggest you get up here and teach class. Okay? Thank you.
We're open for 2.5 or 3 hours, 4 days a week. I think the high point for me was a time we could take care of 85 families in 3 hours. Yeah, now that's not typical, but we had a few weeks there where it was running really, really heavy in the winter time. But we take care of help people, a lot of people in our communities and whether they can. So we want to provide the food. They are free to go out and pick. So that's what we do. How did my parrot